The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hello and welcome to Weighted Donuts. I'm Wayne Unger. And here today with us is ESPN columnist Jerry Crasnick. Jerry, thanks for coming back on.
Hey Wayne, how are you?
I'm good, Jerry. How are you? How's the baseball season treating you?
It's been good. A little too much rain, I think. We've had some issues with that, but it's been an interesting season so far.
We seem to be, and it seems to be have been going on for the past couple of years, where we seem to be witnessing, how can I say it, somewhat of a strategic evolution in many different ways. Do you agree?
Yeah, it's becoming a different game. You know, my colleague Buster Olney wrote an interesting piece yesterday just about how a lot of the things that are sort of given elements of baseball, steals and hit and runs and things like that, you know, bunts, we don't really see much anymore, you know, between the home runs and the strikeouts and the sort of lack of balls being put in play and the shifts. It's really changed the game, and I'm not sure it's changed the game for the better. I think a lot of it is can make for dull baseball sometimes when you see 30, 35 guys striking out in a game and 3 home runs as the offense. So I'd like to see baseball get back to a little bit more of a, you know, balls put in play and a little bit more motion and that sort of thing, but I'm not sure we're going to see that anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree 100%, and I actually shared Buster's story, on the Weighted Donuts group, and a friend of mine had commented, and I agreed. I mean, to me, I find the home run derby boring. I don't watch it. If my son has it on, it's on, but I don't watch it. I just find that boring. And I wonder if baseball is going to lose fans over it.
Yeah, I mean, look, the home run, I think that they've done actually a pretty good job with the home run derby in the last couple of years by pitting guys against each other. They've made it more fast-moving and put a little bit more interest in that. But I think when every game becomes like the home run derby, I'm not sure it's a great thing. And this is one of the things baseball's grappling with. You know, I think they're just trying to put a product out in the field that's going to appeal to people in all generations and young kids. And when, if there's a lot of strikeouts and not a lot of action, they want the games to be quicker. I just think when you have all these other options and, the NBA with all its personalities and postseason hockey is very interesting. I just think baseball has to try to do some things to engage fans, particularly younger fans.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of evolving strategies on the pitching end too. I'm not sure if I asked you about this, but I remember after the 2016 World Series, I know I asked a couple of guests if they felt as though the relief strategies that were employed in the 2016 World Series, bringing in relief pitches much earlier, having them go, more than one inning, and the increased use. If they thought that we might start to see that more and more in season, most said they didn't think that the relief pitches can stand the workload. But we're seeing an increased use of that. Of course, we're seeing it at the expense of a bench player as well. People are just carrying larger staffs as well.
Yeah, I think the other thing is they've done, they do research and they see that, hey, pitchers do well the first 2 times through a rotation, through a lineup, and then by the 3rd time they start to get hit. So you're pulling guys out proactively. Now we see Tampa Bay using relievers to start games, which actually to me is kind of an interesting strategy, if it worked, and it's worked fairly well for the Rays so far. I think that's sort of revolutionary. There's nothing that says you have to have 5 straight days of starters. You could have 4 starters and then a group of relievers, or at least a reliever come in and get through the first inning or two against the really tough guys in the lineup and then hand it off. But I'm not sure everybody's going to adopt that strategy, and I think Tampa Bay can do some of those things just because they're in a market where, they can experiment. It's pretty hard to do that when you're with the Yankees or the Red Sox, and you're going to get scrutinized a whole lot more.
Well, the other thing is, I think it also comes down to need. They don't have a very deep starting staff. I was actually at the Tampa game on Saturday, and they had a reliever start. And the other, and also, it's about matchups. I think even the other teams, if they felt it would be advantageous, to get the early matchups. I mean, to me, early matchups are just as important as late matchups. They say every game counts in the standings. It's not like, well, we'll win them at the end of the year. You want to win them all year long. But I'm curious to see where that goes and if somebody will be next. So.
Yeah, they're a team also that doesn't have a whole lot of money to spend, and so yeah, I'm not sure where that's going to go. I don't mind that kind of thing. I do think creativity is good in a lot of ways. I'm just not sure, that it's going to become the go-to strategy for every team. I think it has to succeed first before people try to copy it, and stuff like that I don't particularly mind. It's more the things like a shift and a guy hitting a line drive to right field and the second baseman being 50 feet behind the dirt throwing them out. I just think those kinds of things, I'm not really sure. The fairness of that sort of bothers me a little bit. These shifts, I think, have been effective in a lot of ways, but I'm not so sure it's great for entertainment value.
Do you think there's a chance that anytime in the future Major League Baseball will ban the shifts, sort of like the NBA banned zone defenses?
I don't know that they could ban the shift entirely. I do think there are some, I've heard people say, hey, maybe what you do is you rule that each guy, you can shift, but guys have to be in the infield, or you can have 2 guys to the right and 2 guys to the left. I mean, I think there are certain things you can try to do that might be a little bit different. I think baseball might want to consider that. It's baseball's typically been averse to really banning things, or but I think something like that might be something, an idea that you at least have to give some thought to, because if it's having these real repercussions that aren't good for the product, then maybe it's a new strategy and maybe it's something that needs to be looked at.
Yeah. I want to back up a little bit to something you wrote about a month and a half ago. I'm just wondering if there's been any follow-up to it in regards to the Indians prospect, Francisco Mejia, with his lawsuit. Now, just to give the listeners a little background, Francisco Mejia is like the top prospect in the Indian system. Last year he had a 50-game hitting streak, and allegedly in his lawsuit during the time of duress when his mother was ill, he got money from this company called Big League Advance, and basically what they do is they will it's questionable, it's debatable whether they loan him the money or give him the money based on future earnings, and they gave him or loaned him $360,000 in exchange for a 10% stake in his future earnings. And so he filed, a lawsuit. Has there been any new progress on that? Any new news on that?
No, I don't think there's been any resolution to it, Wayne. It's sort of like the show Shark Tank, I guess, if you watch that, it's almost like a company will buy a stake in a kid's future, give him upfront money while he's young, and that will allow him to maybe put it into his training or get by for, 2 or 3 years when he doesn't have a whole lot. Maybe his family needs something. But the downside for the kid is that if he becomes a star and he makes $100 million, then, he'll wind up paying for the rest of his career $10 million to this company. So it's been pretty controversial thing. I think the feeling is that this company, Big League Advance, they say they've helped a lot of young kids and they also say that the money they give the kids doesn't have to be paid back even if they don't make the majors. So that they insist that it's not a loan. But it's an interesting concept. I think a lot of kids there are companies like this out there now that do this, and I think the question is just, hey, is the kid making a smart decision, and is he well informed, or is he sort of naive and just trying to get some money up front without thinking of the impact that it could have on his future? So it's not a story that a lot of people pay attention to, but I think within the walls of baseball with a lot of the young players, it's something that's pretty prominent now, and sort of an interesting debate is swirling around it.
I mean, do you personally consider it predatory?
Well, that's one of the questions. I know there are I've talked to some players like Colin McHugh from the Astros, or Andrew Heaney from the Angels, who have done this, and they're American-born kids, college kids who do this and do it with their agents and have a pretty good idea, what they want to do, and it's a well-informed decision. I think the question comes in sometimes when you get some of these, poor kids who might not have as much education down in, the Dominican or some of the Latin countries, and, the feeling is there. Some people think it might be predatory, or do these kids know what they're getting into and that sort of thing. So, I think it's a little too early to sort of draw a definitive conclusion. Some of the kids who've done this, I think, actually are pretty happy with the results and like what it's done, but it's one of these new things that's unfolding. I think that's going to be an interesting debate in the years to come.
Okay. And last night, Clayton Kershaw was back, and then he might not be back. Any news on that? I know it's early. I know it just happened last night, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't know. It was pretty late. I guess he came out. What did he come out after? Like 5 innings or something. It was.
Yes.
Yeah, I was watching the basketball game, and I saw him pitching, and I know he only won a certain amount of time. Look, with a guy like him, they're a team that's been lucky to stay where it is in the standings. Arizona gave them an opening, and I think Kershaw is a guy that's going to be crucial to the Dodgers. They've had some guys step up pretty well in the interim, but a couple days ago, Mejia had an injury that came up, so they're dealing with a lot of stuff, and I guess that's pretty par for the course for the Dodgers. It seems like they are a team that's been hit really hard with the injury bug the last 2 or 3 years.
For sure. Jerry, I know you got to do something in a few minutes. I really appreciate you coming on. I hope I can get you on a little more often with my new shortened format. And as always, I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Wayne. Take care.
Thanks, Jerry. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, folks, that's our show. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.